Have you ever stopped to think about how a conflict happening thousands of miles away could actually, hit you right in the wallet? Well, today, we're going to break that down. We're going to connect the dots between tensions with Iran and the prices you pay every day. All right, let's get into it. So, here's the big question. It seems like a massive leap, right? A conflict over there and your grocery bill over here. But the connection is shockingly direct. And it all kicks off with one of the most critical and, honestly, most overlooked pieces of geography on the planet. The answer is the key to understanding a huge chunk of the global economy.
To really get this, you've got to look at a map. See, Iran's power on the world stage isn't just about politics or its military. It's about something much more fundamental, its location. It basically has a geographic chokehold that acts as the very first domino in a long, long chain of economic consequences.
And at the heart of this entire story is a narrow little stretch of water. It's probably the single most important shipping lane in the entire world when it comes to energy. It's a spot where the flow of resources can be controlled or, and this is the scary part, cut off completely.
And this is it, the Strait of Hormuz. This little waterway is what connects the Persian Gulf to the rest of the world. Now, it might look tiny on a map, but its importance is just massive. You can think of it as the world's energy jugular vein.
Let's put some numbers on this to really let it sink in. A full 20%, that's 1/5, of the entire world's daily oil supply sails right through this strait. We're talking about oil from giants like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the UAE. It all has to funnel through this one narrow channel to get out to the rest of us. And hey, it's not just about oil. More than a quarter of the world's liquefied natural gas, or LNG, mostly from Qatar, also depends on this one passage. So this strait is a total double whammy for global energy security. So here's where it gets really interesting, because Iran's power here is twofold. First, yeah, its military can physically threaten or even try to block shipping in the strait. But second, Iran itself is a massive energy superpower. It's sitting on some of the largest oil and gas reserves on the entire planet. So any disruption to its own supply just throws more fuel on the fire. Okay, so what happens if a conflict really blows up? What's the immediate effect? Well, the first ripple is a sudden, severe global energy shock. And you know what? Even the threat of a disruption is enough to send the markets into an absolute panic. So just how bad could it get? Well, some big bank analysts are predicting that a major conflict could send the price of oil rocketing to a staggering $150 a barrel. To put that in perspective, that's a price that would cause serious, serious pain at the pump for pretty much everyone.
Now, you might look at this and think, okay, 80% goes to Asia, so this is mostly their problem, right? Wrong. That is not how a global market works. When supply gets squeezed, those Asian countries are going to start buying oil from anywhere else they can get it, including from European and American suppliers. And that drives up prices for everyone, everywhere. Scarcity in one spot means higher prices for all of us.
And that right there brings us to the second ripple. This is where the crisis jumps from the gas station to literally every aisle in the supermarket. We're talking about the inflation domino effect, where high energy costs basically infect the entire economy.
I really love this quote because it just nails the reality of the situation. Energy isn't just another part of the economy. It is the absolute foundation for everything. From the fuel that brings goods to the store to the natural gas needed to make fertilizer for the food we eat, it's all connected.
And this sets off a critical chain reaction. It starts with energy prices spiking. That makes it more expensive to make and ship everything from cars to cornflakes. So companies pass those costs on to you, the consumer. Then, faced with higher prices, what do? You cut back on spending. Businesses see their sales drop, so they stop investing, they stop hiring, and just like that, the risk of a full-blown recession becomes very, very real. This whole domino effect leads us to a particularly nasty economic outcome. It's a word you might have heard thrown around before, and it's one that economists absolutely dread: stagflation. It's like putting the entire economy into a deep freeze. So what exactly is stagflation? Well, it's the worst of both worlds, really. You have high inflation, meaning prices for everything are shooting up, but at the exact same time, the economy isn't growing. Businesses are struggling and unemployment starts to rise. It's a painful economic trap that's incredibly difficult to get out of. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. We've seen this play out before. The oil crisis back in the 1970s, also sparked by tensions in the Middle East, led to a brutal decade of stagflation.
The scary part is that today's global economy is so much more interconnected, which means the shock could travel faster and hit even harder than it did back then.
But, in any crises, not everyone loses. All this economic turmoil creates a really volatile environment where, yes, some sectors get hammered, but others can actually do quite well. It creates a very clear picture of market winners and losers. So who wins? Well, the most obvious winners are energy companies that operate in safe parts of the world, like the US or Australia. With prices going through the roof, their profits can absolutely skyrocket. Defense companies, they see a surge in orders. And as fear starts to spread, investors rush to traditional safe haven assets like gold. Even some less obvious players like pipeline operators in North America suddenly become way more valuable because they represent secure energy transport. This really lays out the great divide. On one side, you've got non-Middle East energy producers and defense contractors seeing a boom. But on the other side, industries that depend heavily on cheap energy and consumer spending, think airlines, heavy manufacturing, retail, they get slammed by rising costs and falling demand. And geographically, it's the energy importing regions like Europe and Asia that really suffer the most. So at the end of the day, it all comes back to this idea of a chain reaction. The Strait of Hormuz is just one potential flashpoint. But what it really shows us is how a single event in one corner of the globe can set off a cascade of consequences that affects every single one of us. And the ultimate question that leaves us with is this: in a world disconnected, where's the next domino waiting to fall?